The story begins in an office setting. Our MC, Shigawa, is focused on his task when Tokimori Mizuki, his co-worker, calls out to him. She reminds him to review the project documents, handing them to him. At that moment, another co-worker approaches and informs Tokimori that the distributor has arrived, then asks if the revisions are complete. Tokimori responds calmly, saying she'll handle it, and returns to her desk, typing quickly as she works to wrap things up. Her cabin is beside Sugawa's, and while working, she asks him to print the final version of the project. Just as she presses the enter button and completes the revision, the earlier co-worker returns, praises her speed, and calls her a lifesaver. Without slowing down, she tells Shigawa not to just stand there watching but to pay attention and learn. He nods and follows her lead. When the presentation reaches the distributor, he informs Tokimori that the clients are pleased with the result. She offers him a warm thanks. Shigawa watches her for a moment, noting her intelligence, confidence, and capability. It's easy to see why she's so respected, but no one would believe how different she is once she's home. As he enters home that evening, he finds Tokimori slumped by the doorway, her bag half open and one shoe still on. She barely lifts her head, murmurs a faint welcome, and shuts her eyes again. He stands there for a moment, silent and uncertain. Then, without a word, he gently helps her to the sofa, prepares a warm bath, and lays out a fresh change of clothes. Our MC, Shigawa Tori, reveals that after losing his apartment, his colleague Tokimori-san offered him a place to stay as her helper. He quickly realized that while Tokimori shines at work, outside of it, she's completely opposite, and no one but him ever sees this side of her. In the kitchen, while he stirs the pot, he suddenly feels a light tug at the back of his shirt. He turns, and there she is, standing behind him in just her oversized office shirt, her cheeks flushed. Avoiding his eyes, she softly asks for help. Shigawa freezes. His mind blanks for a moment, but his hands move on their own. It isn't the first time she's put him in a situation like this, yet it still throws him off every time. As he carefully works through the buttons, he tries to stay calm, but it's not easy. She's so close, her scent faint but distracting. He keeps reminding himself that she probably doesn't mean anything by this. Just as he finishes, she leans in and plants a gentle kiss on his cheek. He stands frozen, completely stunned. Before he can react, she softly thanks him and walks away, leaving him behind, trying to process what just happened. He tells himself she probably didn't mean anything by it. There's no way she sees him as anything more than a friend, so he brushes it off and decides he's just overthinking. An hour later, he knocks on her door, wondering why she's taking so long just to take a shower. But there's no answer. He peeks inside and freezes. She's fast asleep, curled up on the floor with a towel wrapped around her. He quickly calls her name, and in her usual tired voice, she mumbles that she was planning to take a bath but ended up falling asleep. Trying not to sigh, he asks her to at least get dressed so he can help properly. Then our boy carefully brings her to her room, pats her head once she's settled, and asks if she's feeling okay. She lies there feeling guilty for being so helpless and starts to wonder if he's disappointed in her. But he gently reassures her that he's not. She puts in so much effort every day, and it's only natural for her to get tired. His words hit her harder than expected, and her eyes filled with tears. He tells her to rest properly and turns to leave. She suddenly asks if he likes anyone. The question catches him completely off guard. He stops and asks why she's bringing that up, but she brushes it off, saying she doesn't really know, and that she'll see him tomorrow. He stands there for a second, unsure what to make of it. She usually seems so composed, but the way she opens up when no one else is around always surprises him. A few days ago, Shigawa woke in a capsule hotel. 3 days earlier, his landlord had shown up unexpectedly, apologizing. The apartment was being demolished the next day. Shocked and with no time to plan, Shigawa stored his belongings in a trunk room and began searching for a new place. But he realized the upfront costs were too steep. A message from his younger brother, thanking him for paying his college fees, pulled him from his thoughts. Despite his situation, Shigawa felt proud and told his brother to reach out if he ever needed anything. As he walks the streets, he realizes how costly moving out is, but he still believes he'll find a place. Then he receives an unexpected invitation to a company welcome party. At first he thinks it's a bit silly, but he figures a short break might help him clear his head. He finally joins his coworkers at the restaurant, where the party is relaxed and everyone is enjoying themselves. While he drinks, Tokimori checks in on Shigawa to see if he's finished his drink and asks if he wants to order something. At first he is surprised, but then he involuntarily asks for a lemon sour, and she quickly puts it in the order. Meanwhile, the rest of the dudes on the table have a crush on her. Then Tokimori's friends start chatting with her female friends. Even at the chief's birthday party, everyone is admiring Tokimori's amazing assistant, her graceful tea serving and quick data organizing. While our hero quietly listens, they call her the MVP of the office and say they're just glad she showed up. When the party wraps up, most people head home, totally going the other way from our dude. While casually walking on the street, he is thinking about going back to the hotel. Just then, he is stunned to see a lady on the street. As he takes a better look, he gets even surprised that she is Tokimori-san, sitting there with her eyes closed. As he calls her, she barely opens her eyes, realizing it's Shugawa. Our hero asks her what's wrong. She just smiles brightly and stands up, cleaning off the mud. Then she says her place is pretty far, and that she just needs a quick break. Bro checks in with her to see if she's really sound, and she casually mentions she's almost home and thanks him for the concern. As he turns to leave, someone approaches Tokimori-san. This shady guy first calls her and then even grabs her hand. When she turns, he makes a modest smiling face and says it's not safe to be out alone at night. But she has a bad hunch about him and says she's cool. But this creep won't let up and keeps pushing for her to crash at a nearby hotel. Things get pretty tense, and his harassing voice catches Shugawa off guard, who hasn't walked too far. He jumps in, calling this creep. He knocks off the creep, saying Tokimori is his colleague and he'll make sure she gets home safely. Once they get to her apartment in a taxi and stand by her door, he asks for the room password. She barely tells him the password. As the door unlocks, he hesitates to go inside and mentions he'll be taking off soon. He notes that her place is a total mess with clothes everywhere. He asks if she has a bed, but she tilts her head and sinks down to the floor, admitting that's where she sleeps because finding furniture is exhausting. Our lad's jaw drops as he never expected this from such a shiny office star. Even Tokimori feels bad and admits she's a sloppy woman. Our guide then recollects his astonishment and quickly reassures her that it's totally fine to be that way since she is always overdoing it at work. That seems to lift her spirits a bit, and she comments that just being around him makes her feel better. Then she sits up. Our hero doesn't know what's so awesome, he said, but the girl remarks that he makes her feel better and even starts to clean up the place. But before she can finish, she just collapses on the floor once again. He calls her and is about to check if she's all right, but seeing her like that makes him a goldfish. She whispers that it's all pointless. Before long, he finally gets over the distraction and takes off his coat and drapes it over her, telling her it's not safe and that he'll take care of the cleanup. She weakly asks if his place is close by. He says it isn't, explaining that his apartment got torn down and he's currently at a capsule hotel. Her eyes go wide at that, and she suggests he could just stay at her place. Out of all the surprises, this one really hits him. She steps closer and proposes that he can have a room if he pays half the rent. He hesitates, saying he can't go along with it because he's still a guy. She tears up, wondering if that means there's no way she can help him. Feeling awkward, he eventually agrees to let her take care of him for a bit, but avoids making eye contact. She cheerfully announces she's off to take a nap and wishes him a good night, leaving him there, sweating in silence. Now he's stuck wondering what to do for the evening. And that's how his new life as the official freeloader began. At the office during lunch, a coworker comments that Tokimori perfectly embodies the saying, "You are what you eat." She eats with such effortless grace that others imagine her welcoming them home with a warm, homemade dinner. Everyone secretly hopes to try her cooking someday. But Shugawa, overhearing the conversation, knows the truth. The night falls and Shugawa watches her holding kitchen utensils like weapons, so he offers to help her. Since they started living together, they have only had cup ramen. As she munches on the ramen noodles, he asks if he can make some different food. She feels sorry that she couldn't give him something in return for this afternoon's bento. Shugawa replies it's all right, quietly amused. He caught a glimpse of her in an apron, and anyone would be envious. He heads to the kitchen, genuinely happy she at least tried to cook for him. As he begins preparing the food, he turns around, and there she is, looking right at him. Their eyes always seem to meet, and it still catches him off guard. She walks into the kitchen and asks if he's making omurice. When he nods, she brings out the ketchup to help. He casually reminds her to remove the lid since the bottle is new. Shugawa wonders what she's planning to write with the ketchup, but in the next moment, she accidentally squirts it all over her shirt and face. They decide to wash the shirt, but it seems she only catches the word shirt, because she starts taking it off right there. Flustered, he quickly looks away and tells her not to do it here. She heads out, leaving him wondering if she misunderstood, or if she's actually into him. A moment later, she pops back in to apologize for always causing trouble. Shigawa reassures her that she's doing her best, but honestly, he probably wouldn't mind being stuck in this kind of chaos forever. As always, her eyes glisten at his steady, unwavering support. After washing her clothes, Shigawa returns in a lighter mood, only to find her asleep on the sofa. Another distraction hits him, but this time he quickly regains composure and gently covers her to keep her warm. Just as he leans in, caught in a sudden thought that maybe he should kiss her, she suddenly starts chewing on his thumb in her sleep. Startled, he pulls back, and she wakes up with a bright smile, saying she was dreaming of eating omurice. Trying to stay composed, he tells her they should eat. She must be hungry. Meanwhile, he's still reeling from the fact that he just touched her lips. At the table, while she happily eats the now-cold omurice, Shigawa can't shake the feeling that, somehow, this all feels oddly indecent. The next morning at the office, the protagonist walks in carrying a stack of documents. Nearby, Tokimori-san is on a phone call, discussing details about a meeting scheduled for the next day. Two colleagues quietly watch her and remark on how dedicated and disciplined she is at work. One of them adds, in a hushed voice, that she has a striking presence and carries herself like a model. Another jokingly comments that she probably trains to stay in shape, saying she looks like a doll. Just then, another female, clearly annoyed, pulls them back to their desks, telling them to focus. Meanwhile, the protagonist simply watches the scene unfold, arms full of papers, thinking to himself that Tokimori-san definitely has a graceful figure. That night, Tokimori falls asleep soon after returning home, as usual. Shigawa, carrying a laundry basket, wonders how she manages to stay so fit when he never sees her working out. He calls out, asking if he can go ahead and do the laundry, and she sleepily replies, sure. He heads to the laundry room, sits down, and begins sorting the clothes. As he picks up the first item, he's momentarily confused by what it is. After a moment, it clicks. It's one of Tokimori's undergarments. He pauses, unsure whether he should be handling it. He debates whether to leave it aside, but worries that might cause trouble later. Unsure of what to do, he searches online and finds that delicate clothing like this shouldn't be machine washed. Realizing he has to hand wash it, he fills the sink and carefully starts washing, doing his best to be respectful and gentle. Just as he's finishing, Tokimori suddenly appears behind him, startling him. He yelps in surprise and quickly apologizes. She, too, apologizes, saying she has too much laundry. Noticing that his sleeves are soaked, she steps forward and begins rolling them up for him. As she does, he tries to tell her it's okay, but she gently insists. When she looks down and sees what he was washing, she freezes for a second. Then, without saying much, she takes the garment from him with a small smile and quietly says, "I'll take care of the rest." She gently leads him out of the laundry room, and the two share a small, wordless moment of mutual embarrassment. The next day, after wrapping up work, Tokimori-san is approached by Nishi, who casually asks if she wants to grab a meal. With a smile, she suggests a stylish pasta shop near the station, somewhere she's always wanted to try. Her excitement is clear. A nearby coworker watches the two chatting and comments softly how Tokimori-san seems to know all the best spots. They begin to wonder what her hobbies are. She just seems to have great taste in everything. Meanwhile, Shigawa quietly eats his lunch, realizing he doesn't actually know much about what Tokimori likes outside of work. Just then, another coworker walks up and asks if he's seen the newest film by director Asayama, handing him a Blu-ray. He lights up immediately, thrilled, and excitedly accepts. From across the room, Tokimori notices his bright reaction, smiling as she watches his enthusiasm. That evening, back at home, Shigawa sets up his laptop, still energized. As he admires the Blu-ray, Tokimori appears behind him and asks if he's into movies. A little surprised, he replies that it's actually an anime film, one of his favorites, and asks if she likes watching movies too. She admits she's been too busy lately but would love to watch one. Nervously, he suggests they watch it together. She considers it for a moment, then agrees with a small smile and goes to grab some drinks. They settle on the sofa, side by side, the room dim and quiet. As the movie plays, he begins to feel the atmosphere shift. It almost feels like a movie date. He glances at her, noticing how relaxed she looks. Eventually, she leans her head gently on his shoulder. Surprised, he asks if she's tired. She nods and says that sitting upright too long makes her sleepy, but she's enjoying the film. She adjusts and gets more comfortable, apologizing if she's being a bother. He reassures her it's fine. They're just enjoying the movie together. She smiles, grateful, and lies down on his lap. As the film continues, he tries to focus, but the warmth of the moment is distracting. He's not sure what to think, just that this quiet time, watching a movie with her, feels special. Even if he doesn't remember much of the film later, he knows he'll remember this. The next day at the office, Tokimori-san is at her desk when her junior colleague Nishi Yukako hurries over, full of energy. She eagerly asks if Tokimori-san is free for dinner this Friday. Without looking up, she calmly replies that Friday doesn't work for her. Jumping to conclusions, Nishi blurts out, "Do you have a boyfriend?" Tokimori sighs and quietly reminds her to lower her voice. They're still at work. She also tells her to get off her desk. A few nearby coworkers glance over and whispers start. Could she really have a boyfriend? Toki, composed as always, simply says she'll head straight home today. Oddly, that seems to ease the tension across the office. A moment later, someone notices her skin looks clearer than usual. Another remarks she's glowing these days. Must be love. But our protagonist thinks otherwise. She finally started sleeping in a proper bed, he muses. No wonder she looks so refreshed. Just then, she walks up to his desk and quietly hands him a note. "I forgot my key. What should we do?" Without a word, he types a reply on his screen and turns it toward her. "Wait for me at the station." She gives a small, subtle hand gesture in response and walks off. Though he's not sure what it meant, it's enough to make him pick up the pace. At the station, the place is busy, almost like a date spot. He enters a small cafe and spots Tokimori, already seated, but fast asleep with her head resting on the table. He walks over and gently calls her name. She stirs and murmurs that the cool air made her doze off. He apologizes for making her wait and suggests they head home. As they walk, they come across a steep staircase. She moves carefully but still seems a bit out of it. Suddenly, she slips. He catches her just in time, steadying her as they land on the next step. "Are you okay?" he asks. She nods, then winces her ankle hurts. She sits down, apologizing quietly. Without hesitation, he kneels and says she won't make it home like this. He'll carry her. Her eyes widen at the gesture, but she gently takes his hand and leans onto his back. As he lifts her for a piggyback, she shyly asks if she's heavy. "Not at all," he replies, trying to stay calm. They walk together through the station, the moment quiet and peaceful, until someone behind them calls out, "You drop this." They both turn and freeze. Standing there, holding a commuter pass, is Nishi-chan. She can't believe what she's seeing. She blinks, then recognizes Shigawa, stunned to find him carrying Tokimori on his back. Confused, she questions why the two of them are together like that. Tokimori, still half asleep, remains quiet. Shigawa stands frozen, overwhelmed by how quickly the situation escalated. He wonders if Nishi just came from the office, but before he can say anything, she casually assumes that he might be Tokimori's boyfriend. Panicked, he interrupts her, mutters an apology, snatches the dropped commuter pass from her hand, using his mouth in his rush, and runs off, leaving Nishi speechless. As he hurries toward home, his mind spirals. There's no doubt Nishi will misunderstand everything. She'll probably tell others that he lives with Tokimori. The rumor could spread fast. When they finally arrive at the apartment, he kneels down with Tokimori still on his back. She gently apologizes, wondering if she was heavier than expected. Dripping with sweat, he reassures her that carrying her was his choice. Still, the thought of office rumors keeps his nerves on edge. He sits in silence, overwhelmed, until Tokimori leans forward and wipes the sweat from his face, asking if he's all right. He starts to respond but freezes halfway. Her relaxed posture puts her far too close for comfort. Embarrassed, he straightens up quickly and realizes he's accidentally grabbed the towel from her. She doesn't seem to mind, but he shifts focus to her ankle, saying they should cool it down. Sensing his lingering concern, Tokimori quietly asks if he's still worried about what happened. He hesitates, then admits it's been on his mind. He knows how fast rumors can travel at work and worries about how it could affect her. She offered him a place to stay out of kindness. He doesn't want that kindness to become a burden. Tokimori listens without interrupting, then calmly suggests that if people are going to assume something anyway, they might as well make it real. The words catch him off guard, and for a moment light up something inside him. But he quickly pulls himself back, thinking it's too soon, and worries things could spiral if they rush. While he's overthinking, he glances at her again, only to find she's already fallen asleep. The next day is Friday. At the office vending machine, Shigawa stands beside Tokomori, picking up drinks. He mentions he's glad her ankle isn't badly hurt. She responds softly, her usual self. That normalcy gives him a sense of relief. But just as they're about to walk away, Nishi appears with arms folded and a teasing expression. With mock drama, she comments on how surprised she is to see Shigawa acting like Tokomori's personal assistant, carrying her all the way home like some kind of loyal ride service. She even mentions that although they joined the company in the same year, she's always felt outshined by Tokomori's looks. Then, without warning, she hugs Tokomori tightly, half joking and half jealous. Shigawa, expecting something like this, keeps his cool. Still, her words stick with him. If this is how Nishi sees things, others might too. But for now, at least, the truth behind his relationship with Tokomori remains a secret, just barely. A coworker checks the calendar, sees only 30 minutes left, and tells Chief Sakuda there's no way to finish cleaning in time. Chief Sakuda insists that cleanliness should be maintained daily, which frustrates the coworker, who wonders how he's supposed to manage that with an already packed schedule. As Shigawa gathers his things, he reflects on how their company keeps a regular cleaning routine. Behind him, Nishi is already teary-eyed while packing up. As Tokomori passes by, she quietly picks up some of Nishi's belongings and encourages her to hang in there just a bit longer. Nishi is surprised. Despite her recent ankle injury, Tokomori still chooses to help. Tokomori explains she's only lifting lighter items because of her injury. Her small but thoughtful gesture quickly draws admiration from those around her. The next day is a rest day. Tokomori is still fast asleep by midday when Shigawa walks into the room. Just as he's about to say something, she suddenly wakes up, checks the time, and half awake, reminds him they had planned to clean today. Despite still being drowsy, she offers to help. Shigawa, surprised, tells her to wake up properly first before rushing into anything. Later, after freshening up, Tokomori ties her hair and agrees to clean the bathroom. She mentions that since he usually does it, it's only fair she helps too. After all, they both use the space. Her words make Shigawa smile, especially the way she naturally includes him in her thoughts. As she heads off, she comments, "Let's do our best," making him blush a little while vacuuming. Suddenly, a loud yelp comes from the bathroom. Shigawa hurries over to find her soaked, standing in the middle of a small mess. Water sprays everywhere as she explains she forgot to turn off the shower. Calmly, she apologizes for the trouble. Shigawa, flustered, reassures her that it's fine as long as she's okay. He tells her to call if anything else happens and quickly steps out, trying to keep his composure. Back in his room, he attempts to focus on cleaning, but the scene keeps replaying in his head. To shake it off, he shifts into overdrive, scrubbing the floor at full speed just to distract himself. About 30 minutes later, he calls out to check if she's done. Tokomori steps out, looking completely worn out. She stumbles slightly, and Shigawa catches her just in time. He thanks her for finishing despite being exhausted. She replies with a soft smile, saying she's thankful too, leaving him momentarily flustered. Trying to brush it off, he tells her to rest and says he'll finish the rest of the cleaning. As he walks away, he quietly celebrates the moment, until he notices the floor is now covered in muddy footprints. With a deep sigh, he makes the floor shinier. On a quiet rest day, a delivery arrives at the apartment. Shigawa picks it up and wonders if it's for Tokomori. He walks over to her room and gently tells her a package has come, but she's sound asleep. Seeing her so at peace, he realizes it might be the first time he's seen her completely relaxed. He softly asks if he should leave it on her desk, but she stirs slightly and mumbles that she won't open it right now. Knowing things never go smoothly when she's half awake, he decides to open it for her. Inside is a puzzle. As soon as she hears it, Tokomori lights up. It's finally arrived. He notices every piece is plain white. It looks incredibly difficult, but she still wants to try. She asks if he'd like to join, and he agrees if she's okay with it. She puts on her glasses, looking determined, and tells him they have 5 hours to finish the 180-piece puzzle. It's a race against time. As they begin, Shigawa can't help but admire how focused she looks in her glasses. Tokomori starts quickly, working through the corners and edges. She hands him a small set of pieces and suggests he work on a smaller section. As time passes, Shigawa finds the task oddly satisfying. It's a far cry from their usual work. More than that, he's surprised by how energized Tokomori is, even at home. The excitement rubs off on him. He finishes his section in an hour and proudly shows her, but notices she's still far from done. He instantly regrets saying anything, realizing she hadn't even noticed his progress. Tokimori snaps out of her concentration and apologizes, realizing he must have felt left out. Shigeoka stays calm and says he actually finds it admirable how serious she is about the things she enjoys, and that he'll keep doing his best. Her eyes soften, and they continue working on the puzzle together. Hours later, he beams as he places the final piece. Tokimori lights up with joy, celebrating that they completed it. Overwhelmed with excitement, she hugs him in celebration. Caught off guard, Shigeoka feels a rush of emotion, but quickly reminds himself to stay composed. As she relaxes in the hug, Tokimori begins to nod off. Shigeoka notices a cup of coffee sitting near the puzzle and reaches for it, thinking it might help. But in the process, they lose balance, and the coffee spills onto the puzzle. He apologizes immediately, worried he's ruined everything. But Tokimori simply pats his head, looks him in the eyes, and tells him it matters more that he helped. Blushing, he listens as she cheerfully says they should try a 1,000-piece puzzle next time. They end up framing the now-stained puzzle and hanging it on the wall. Shigeoka, still slightly flustered, tilts his head and squints, wondering why, somehow, he sees the shape of a cat in it. The next day at the office, a coworker gets a call from the client and is startled by the reminder to complete the task that very day. When she shares the news with Shigeoka and Nishi, they're shocked, and Nishi protests. It's impossible, the revisions aren't even done. Just then, Tokimori steps in confidently and offers to help. The team leader thanks her, and everyone quickly gets to work. Shigeoka watches in surprise, thinking how dependable Tokimori is, while quietly hoping she doesn't overwork herself. Later that night, Shigeoka waits at home, watching the clock strike 10 p.m., but Tokimori-san is still at the office. When the door finally opens, he rushes to greet her, only to find her so exhausted she nearly collapses. Concerned, he supports her and helps her to her room. She apologizes, saying he must be tired too, but he assures her he's fine and tells her she works harder than anyone. He encourages her to rely on him whenever she needs. After helping her settle in, he leaves briefly, then returns with clean clothes. To his surprise, Tokimori admits she's too tired to change on her own and asks for help. Flustered but determined, Shigeoka gathers his courage and gently helps her into more comfortable clothes. Once she's comfy, she quietly thanks him before drifting off to sleep, while he lingers at her side, still worried. Just as he's about to leave, Tokimori thanks him again. Shigeoka gasps, telling her to rest well, but then she suddenly grabs his arm and accidentally pulls him toward her. They end up pressed together, eyes locked. He freezes, heart racing under her calm gaze. He freezes as their eyes meet, his heart racing under her calm gaze. He can't believe this is really happening, his mind going blank as anxiety hits. She looks super peaceful and hesitantly leans in to kiss, but she softly calls out his name and apologizes for pulling him in so suddenly. She admits she tends to cause him trouble, but when she looks at him with those gentle eyes, she wonders why he's always been so nice to her. He gets a bit distant at her words, and after a moment, he replies that it's not for any special reason, but his dad passed away from an illness. His mom often collapsed from working too hard, and that's when he came to realize no one can really do everything by themselves. If they pitch in together, things usually turn out okay. He tells her that whenever she's worn out, he'll be glad to help. After another pause, he adds that that's just how things are, and faults himself for rambling on. She tells him it's all good and thanks him for chatting with her since it made her feel really happy. He looks at her with wide eyes, saying that's great. Then he laughs a little. He wishes her a good night and hands her a pillow, telling her to rest up. As he shuts the door, he thinks Tokimori-san seems a little different than usual, maybe just exhausted from working late. Lying on her bed, she whispers that she likes such things about Shigeoka-kun. And when he hears her say that, his heart lifts. He keeps repeating her words in his head as he steps outside, feeling excited because he believes she just said she likes him. Just then, his brother Akeru calls. Shigeoka greets him warmly, asking how college is going. Akeru says everything's going well and thanks his brother for the help. Noticing how cheerful he sounds, he asks if something happened, but Shigeoka brushes it off, saying nothing special. He then asks why he's calling. After a brief pause, Akeru mentions he's coming to stay over tomorrow. Caught off guard, Shigeoka protests that it's too sudden. With a quick apology, Akeru adds that he'll take the overnight bus, then hangs up before he can respond. Lowering the phone, Shigeoka wonders what to tell his brother about Tokimori-san. The next day, Akeru shows up in Tokyo and is blown away, thinking this is where all the trends start. While he's walking around, somebody asks if he dropped something. and he apologizes before nervously claiming it's his. As she turns to leave, he can't help but think she's beautiful, and he starts to wonder if his brother is dating. Suddenly, a guy yells at her to stop, saying he's not done talking to her, but she replies that she doesn't want to chat anymore. Watching from a distance, Ekeru thinks it looks like a scene out of a drama and wonders if they just had a fight. He's feeling a bit nervous about Tokyo and quickly calls Ni-chan, begging him to come over fast. Back at Tokimori's place, our lad steps out, announcing that he'll be gone for a bit, though he's not really sure if she's inside, though it's rare to see her leave in the mornings. He texts his younger brother, telling him to call if anything goes down, then heads over to the cafe they agreed on. He remembers his brother saying to wait in front of the station. From a distance, his younger brother waves and calls out to him. Shugowa's face lights up as he rushes over. His brother greets him, all excited, saying it's been a while. Shugowa is caught off guard and blurts out, asking what the heck happened to him because he dyed his hair. Ekeru just grins and says he's trying a new look so he won't have regrets later, especially with university coming up. Shugowa sighs, knowing his brother always acts on a whim, and wonders if he should try to stop him. Then Ekeru casually asks how his new apartment is. Shugowa hesitates for a moment before finally admitting he's living with a girl. Ekeru immediately shouts in disbelief. Shugowa quickly covers his mouth to avoid drawing attention and mutters that things happened. He's booked a hotel, so Ekeru should just go there. But Ekeru won't let it slide. He gets all pumped up and begs to meet her. Shugowa, sweating a little, tries to brush him off, but Ekeru whines that a hotel feels lonely and insists on meeting her to make sure she's not a bad person. Shugowa thinks to himself that Tokimori-san is definitely not shady. Still, eventually he gives in and agrees to a quick introduction, but that's it. When they get to the apartment, Shugowa tells his brother to hang tight outside, and Ekeru nods. Shugowa steps in and calls out to Tokimori, asking if she's around. He finds her in the kitchen cooking. She turns around with a smile and greets him warmly. He's stunned, unable to process that she's actually wearing an apron. She says sorry for leaving earlier without telling him, but he reassures her it's no big deal. Meanwhile, he catches a whiff of something delicious. Tokimori explains that she made lunch. On the table, there's a seriously impressive spread, and she admits she might have gone a little overboard. Shugowa is blown away by the food and asks if she cooked it all herself. She nods and hopes he likes it. He's thinking that she could barely cook anything before. Just then, his stomach growls, so he apologizes, claiming it's just because the food looks so good. But before he can say much more, she scoops up a spoonful of food, holds it out, and tells him to open wide. Our boy hesitates, dazed by the situation, but reluctantly opens his mouth. She feeds him, watching closely as he munches. When she asks how it is, he thinks there is no way it could be bad. He immediately says it is perfect. Her face beams with happiness, and she says she will handle the cleaning afterward. Our hero offers to help, but she shakes her head and says she should at least handle this much, or it would not be right. Her words feel heavier to him than they should. Meanwhile, Ekeru grows impatient outside and calls to remind Shugowa about the reservation. Shugowa tells him again to just wait, but Ekeru casually strolls inside, introducing himself as Shugowa Ekeru and thanking her for taking care of his brother. He suddenly stops mid-sentence, stunned as he looks at her. The room falls silent as the two stare at each other. Shugowa asks if he knows her, and he responds that he saw her arguing with a man outside a cafe. Ekeru curiously asks Tokimori if she's been in a fight with some guy and wants to know what went down. She just stands there silently, making our hero super confused. He apologizes to Tokimori for his brother's rudeness, and then yells at his brother for being a jerk. His brother just walks off, complaining that his first girlfriend cheated on him and that women are basically great actresses. Probably because he's good-looking, he reasons. He asks about the plates, checks the kitchen racks, and decides he's sticking around for the day and expects them to take care of him. Shugowa is shocked and wonders why his brother does whatever he wants, but Tokimori is okay with it and says she's cooked enough food for everyone. They all sit down to eat, and Ekeru gives Tokimori a weird look. Shugowa ponders on Tokimori-san, questioning if something's really up with her. He really feels like he doesn't know her at all. After dinner, they decide that both brothers will crash in the same bed. Our lad hesitantly checks with Tokimori to see if she's okay with it, and she cheerfully assures him that she is. As night sets in, Ekeru quickly falls asleep, but our lad is wide awake. Out of nowhere, he hears someone calling his name. When he turns his head, Tokimori-san is right there, leaning in a bit. He nearly jumps out of his skin, but she quickly tells him to shush. They both check on Akaru to make sure he's still out. She then whispers that she has something to tell him before going to sleep. Our dude asks what it is. She mentions it's about what Akaru said earlier. Our guy apologizes again for his brother and figures it's probably something personal, but she admits she thought he'd be bummed about it, which is why she wants to clear some things up. His response catches her off guard, but he tells her there's no need to worry. He knows she's got her reasons, and since they share a space, he sees how hard she works. More than anything, he's just there to support her. Tokimori's eyes go wide as she stares at him in silence, and the quiet vibe surprises him. Then she leans close enough for her lips to nearly brush his ear and quietly says thank you. Hearing this, his face gets flushed. Just then, Akaru suddenly sits up and yells that Tokimori is creeping into their bed. Shugawa turns to his brother, trying to explain, but Akaru cuts him off, shouting that he knew it. There's no way he can trust her. He hurriedly shoves his stuff into a bag, pulling his brother along as he storms out of the apartment, claiming that at this rate, she'll end up taking all his money. Our hero looks back at Tokimori-san, who's just standing there, completely silent and shocked. It was the middle of the night. Shugawa and Akaru stayed at a hotel. At present, Akaru asks Nei-chan if he's heading to the company, but Shugawa answers no. He explains he'll be going home first since he has some work to do outside the office today and tomorrow. His brother waves goodbye and tells him to take care. Meanwhile, Tokimori is in the office as usual, but today her mind is wandering. She goes to check on Shugawa, but he isn't at his desk. A coworker behind her mentions that he is busy with work elsewhere today. After a while, she passes some documents to Nishi for review. The director points out that Tokimori always finishes her tasks without a hitch. But then Nishi catches a rare mistake in her work and brings it up to the senior, who just brushes it off, saying it isn't a big deal. Outside, Tokimori sits on the floor, lost in thoughts about last night. Just then, her phone rings, and she hopes it is Shugawa, but when she looks, it isn't. The scene shifts to Shugawa, who is walking down a rainy street. He spots Tokimori-san across the road and wonders where she is headed, so he starts to follow her. She reaches the building and waits at the entrance when the guy from before shows up. He calls out, but she ignores him. He asks if she's ready to be honest with herself, wondering if she's still upset about him leaving, though he admits he no longer cares. With open arms, he tries to get her to come back, but Tokimori lowers her head, apologizes, and says it won't work. It's only been a few weeks, but she already knows she'll never be the person he wants. Still, his cruel words linger in her mind. Her mind wanders back to that time. She is lounging on the sofa when Haruto asks where the food is. She tells him she is tired but can whip up something quick if he wants. His expression shifts and he snaps back, asking what that means since she isn't doing anything. He insists that as a woman, she should know how to cook and calls her a failure. She lets her heart out, sobbing in the kitchen. Now in the present, Haruto pushes her to come back, saying that if she stays, they can start over. He questions whether she really doesn't want that. Without any hesitation, she tells him she doesn't. She apologizes and states that she is deleting his number. Haruto, furious, grabs her wrist tightly. She tells him to let go, but he just holds on. Suddenly, someone knocks Haruto's hand away from Tokimori's wrist, and she stares in shock. It's Shugawa, who then pulls her into his embrace, shoots daggers at Haruto. He firmly asks Haruto what he thinks he's doing, while Tokimori, stunned, softly mutters his name. Haruto glares and demands to know who he is. Shugawa steps in, explaining she's his coworker and he only intervened because she seemed in trouble. Haruto scoffs, calling him an outsider with no business here. The words sting, and Shugawa quickly fires back that she let him stay with her for personal reasons. As her housemate, he won't just stand around and watch this. Haruto's smirk stretches slowly across his face as he lets out a low laugh, mocking the idea of them living together. He throws a jab at Shugawa, accusing him of clinging to her, then suddenly shifts his tone, demanding to know if there's something going on between them. Without pausing, he drops the bomb he used to date her. The words hit hard. Shugawa freezes, eyes wide, stunned by the realization that this man is her ex. Haruto steps in closer, voice cold as he presses for details, asking how long Shugawa has been staying with her. Still wearing that smug expression, he turns his attention to Tokimori, calling her cute but messy. Before she can get a word in, he starts listing everything she supposedly lacks: laundry, cooking, the everyday basics. and labels her a failure as a woman. Tokimori stands in silence, each insult heavier than the last, dragging her confidence down until she almost starts to believe it. But Shugawa refuses to let it slide. He steps in, his voice firm, defending her, reminding Haruto that she's doing her best. His sincerity reaches her, something in her chest softens and her heart begins to steady. His eyes are no longer filled with fury, but something gentler, something protective. He insists she shouldn't have to carry everything on her own. Haruto's temper snaps. He grabs Shugawa by the collar, snarling as he accuses him of blaming everything on him. Then, with a rough shove, Shugawa stumbles and hits the ground. Haruto walks off without a backward glance, heading to his car. Tokimori rushes to his side, kneeling beside him to check if he's all right. He gives her a faint nod, brushing it off, urging her to get out of the rain with him. But her tears haven't stopped, and he can't help but wonder what's really hurting her. He asks, unsure, trying to find the right words, regretting that he'd jumped to conclusions before hearing her side. In that moment, he feels utterly lost. She responds quietly, admitting that her heart feels light, relieved that he came for her. The words hit him like thunder in the rain, and a warm blush rises to his cheeks. He gently reminds her not to let Haruto's cruelty sink in. She nods, wiping her eyes. The rain continues to fall, soaking her clothes, the fabric clinging to her skin and revealing the outline of her bra beneath. The moment grows heavy between them, charged. Without hesitation, he shrugs off his coat and drapes it around her shoulders. She thanks him softly, and as their hands meet, she gently reminds him they'll both get drenched if they don't move. They walk side by side, the rain falling steadily. When their hands brush again, Shugawa freezes for a beat, cheeks flushing a deeper red. The next day dawns gray and chilly. Shugawa finds himself at the market, sniffling from the cold he probably caught the day before. As he's reaching for groceries, a voice calls out behind him, "Haruto." Shugawa turns, surprised, and asks if he has a moment. The scene shifts to Haruto scrolling through some girls' profiles when he spots a model and comments that she is pretty cute. He quickly swipes to another profile and mentions that this one's a nurse, complimenting her figure. Our guy raises an eyebrow at him, pondering the situation. Haruto then asks what kind of girl Shugawa likes, catching him off guard. Haruto grins, assuring him it is nothing bad and that he can introduce him to whatever type of girl he wants. He keeps showing more profiles, mentioning one girl who comes from a family-oriented background and would make a great housewife. But the real deal is that Haruto wants our hero to ditch Tokimori. He keeps putting more pics in front of him, insisting there are tons of lovely options out there. Our main guy looks surprised, not realizing that Haruto's true mission is to get him to meet someone other than Tokimori. In Haruto's mind, he figures our hero isn't super popular, so he probably thinks he'll go for it. But Haruto is off the mark. Shugawa simply states that Tokimori-san is a lovely person and that everyone has different sides to them. He has seen so many beautiful things in her, prompting Haruto to recall a memory. He is at a table with two girls. One of them says he is good with people but not really funny, which feels like a straight-up insult while he holds a plate. Without saying anything, he turns to Tokimori in front of him and offers her the plate. She thanks him and calls him a nice guy. Back to the present, Haruto's expression shifts when Shugawa calls him kind. Hearing this, his face hardens and he snaps, asking what our hero knows about him and telling him to stop it. He walks away, saying he doesn't want to waste time. Shugawa just sits there, confused, watching him go. Then his phone rings. It is his brother asking if it is a good time to chat. Shugawa questions if he is back in Tokyo, but his brother quickly shuts that down. Out of nowhere, he starts talking about his girlfriend, loudly insisting she isn't cheating. He mentions that his birthday is coming up and that his girlfriend has been out with her cousin picking out a gift. He sounds pretty emotional when he says he is relieved and thinks Shugawa's love is really something special. Nearby, a girl hears this and teasingly calls him out for being so dramatic. Before hanging up, Akru says he'll apologize when they meet, then adds that next time he sees them, he wants to hear how things are going between them. After the call, Shugawa heads home, thinking about Tokimori-san. He starts hesitating, wondering why Akru is still stuck on the wrong idea about things. He remembers that to her, he is basically just a coworker and someone who helps out. Then he opens the door and finds Tokimori lying there with her phone, waiting for him. Her smile lights up when she sees him, but he freezes for a moment, surprised that she has been waiting. She gets up and wraps her arms around him, which makes him drop the stuff he is carrying. As she hugs him, she thanks him in a really warm way. Shugawa feels totally caught off guard and suddenly just passes out. Tokimori stiffens in surprise, and her smile fades into a look of concern as she softly calls out his name. After he passes out, Tokimori checks his temperature and quickly realizes it's not normal. Later, when he wakes up in bed and sniffs the air, realizing he's caught a cold, his mind drifts to the night he was holding Tokimori's hands in the rain, thinking it's probably because he got soaked the other day. There's a sense of relief that he's the one dealing with the cold instead of her. Tokimori comes into the room with a bowl, clearly having made something for him. She asks if he's feeling all right. He sits up, a bit surprised, and asks why she's not at work, but she explains that she noticed he seemed to be struggling, so she decided to work from home instead. Just seeing her there makes him happy. She tells him she's going to take care of him today. He looks at her, puts a hand to his chest, and thanks her. She asks if he's hungry and states that she still has time before her work starts, so she makes some porridge. As she sits beside him, she blows on the porridge to cool it and offers him a spoonful while gently telling him to eat. He opens his mouth but hesitates, feeling flustered by the whole feeding. In the middle of their meal, an alarm goes off. Tokimori gasps a little and mentions it's the timer she set for 10 minutes before work. She steps out of the room but calls from the doorway, telling him to call her if he needs anything. Holding the warm bowl, he notices that instead of tiredness, he feels pretty happy. His cheeks warm up as he remembers her saying she wants to take care of him. Figuring he can at least put the dishes away, he gets up, washes his bowl, and sneaks a glance at Tokimori working on her laptop, wondering what's on her mind. Back in his room, he wraps a cloth around his neck and lies down, telling himself he needs to get better. At some point, he drifts off to sleep, even though he's sweating a lot. Suddenly, a gentle touch makes him stir. When he opens his eyes, he sees Tokimori sitting beside him, her hand resting on his forehead. She softly murmurs that he feels a bit chilly. She runs her hands over him to check his temperature and leans in closer, making his heart race. Without worrying about how it looks, she says if he's sweating so much, she should help dry him off. He quickly insists that he can take care of the front on his own. The scene changes to him sitting on the bed while Tokimori gently dries his back. Each time her hands touch him, he feels himself tense up. He reminds himself that this could be risky. Her body is pressed lightly against him, making him feel hot. She says she hopes he gets over his cold soon. He glances over and sees her eyes growing heavy until she falls asleep, still clinging to him. Flustered, he moves, and she slips forward onto his lap. He tells her that if she does not sleep on the futon, she will catch a cold herself. As he tucks her in and takes care of her, he realizes he feels completely recovered. The next day, he walks into the office and sees Nishi all over Tokimori, looking super stressed about saving her. Nishi's almost in tears, saying she's been told to train the new employees and just can't handle it. Then Shugawa spots this woman in tall heels. She pulls out her earbuds and gives a friendly smile. Nishi's voice shakes as she warns everyone that the newcomer is Igarashi Azusa, a rookie who used to work in advertising at her last job. She adds that it's risky to let your guard down around her, recalling a story from the mobile company that hit hard. Azusa waves at them, and our hero glances at Nishi, unsure if the wave was for her or him. A moment later, Azusa strolls over to him, says she can't deal with something this morning, and hands him a stack of paperwork with some instructions. Before he can say anything, she tells him she has a meeting and just asks him to return the papers when he's done. As he checks out the instructions, Nishi sneaks up and quietly warns him that he's fallen for one of Azusa's tricks. She explains how Azusa dodges boring stuff like data checks while still snagging all the credit. Our hero starts to sweat while looking at the paperwork. Just when he's trying to figure out what to do, Tokimori jumps in. She reassures Shugawa that he doesn't have to do it all. Then she calls out to Azusa to get her attention. When Azusa turns, Tokimori confidently says she'll handle today's training instead. Azusa pouts, complaining that she doesn't get him and just wants it to be more exciting. She slumps in frustration, unsure how she did it before. But Tokimori explains that to hit their goals, they need to keep finding new ways to work together, reminding everyone that working isn't about doing it solo. Achievements come from developing fresh methods as a team. She adds that if anything happens, they can always ask those around for help. The director watches silently from the doorway. Azusa stiffens, her pride clearly wounded, and she turns away with a sharp glare. Sweat runs down her face as she mutters bitterly about Tokimori. Later that night, our hero smiles, quietly praising Tokimori for her hard work. Tokimori lies on the couch, looking totally wiped out, While our hero checks in on her, she mumbles that she can't move. Sitting nearby, he gives her a warm smile and says she looked pretty awesome today. He also thanks her for all those times she was there for him when he had a cold. He offers his help anytime she needs it. Out of the blue, she reaches out her hands to him and asks if he could give them a massage. He sits still for a moment, then slowly takes her hand and begins the massage. Her hands are so soft that he wonders whether he should continue. But then, out of nowhere, she grabs his hand, and now he's even more lost. When he looks at her, she just says she's feeling good again. He can't hold it together. Feeling all awkward, he pulls away and says goodnight. Deep down, he knows he's not getting any sleep tonight. Meanwhile, Azusa finishes a report and, wearing a dreadful expression, sends it off to the director.
Here I am,